for joining us today on our podcast. We're here with Fireside Leadership. My lovely co-host, Janice Lee. My name is Liza Magcale, and we're here today talking to our special guest that Janice is going to introduce.
Yeah, I'm really excited to introduce our guest for today. This is Thierry Hyppolite. Terry is the country manager for HAINET, the Haiti's leading internet service provider. He's basically responsible for over 500 staff, covering all the teams from sales to operations to customer service. He reports into the board of directors, and that's just the main hat that he wears. But we're going to be speaking to Terry today from his perspective as a general manager and leading a country on what leadership means to him, and how he's been using it in his roles.
Hi everybody. Hi Janice. Hi Lisa. Thank you for the invite.
Terry, so thankful that you joined us today. I think you're going to be able to offer us a different perspective than our previous guests and how we've been operating from our lens, just because of where you live. So again, you're from Haiti, and you have gotten into your leadership role, and you're managing the entire business and reporting directly to a board. So, I'm really curious to find out, what does leadership look like to you from where you sit today?
It's a never-ending learning curve. That's what leadership means for me. You never stop learning. It's about the people. It's about bettering the people, bettering yourself. And I remember one of my mentors at my early age asked me a question in my interview. He said, because I was interviewing for a position, and he became my mentor. And he said, "What do you think? Does the leader make the team grow, or does the leader grow with the team?" And that struck me all my life. That's like almost 20 years ago. And I actually really learned that, you grow with your team. That's what the leader is. So that's what leadership is for me.
That's awesome. That is really telling. Janice?
Yeah, so I guess my next question is for you, as you've kind of been seeing what's been happening in the market and the environment these days, what are some skills that people should be focusing on? If we're not speaking about anything like industry specific, like what do you think are some of these key tools or, qualities that people should be focused on if they're looking at growing in terms of as a leader?
Well, listen, it all starts with people skills. People skills, being empathy is extremely important. Being able to read people, to understand the situation. Communication is critical, and this is you're never good enough, or you're never that good at communication. 5 years ago, I was challenged on my communication skills, and I was already a high-level executive, and I'm still learning by myself. So, and be curious also. A leader is, you don't need to know everything, but just have an open mind and an open heart, and focus on results. These are the really critical things that a leader wants to. Everything else is just gravy. The results come through people. So, people management, leadership,
Yeah.
empathy, all of this.
I think we hear those things a lot, and probably we all do, like communication for sure, effective listening, things like that. Do you have, and maybe of the things that you've discussed, like communication, just curiosity, empathy, do you have any kind of examples of things that you did for yourself that helped you in those areas? You mentioned 5 years ago, you were challenged with communication. Will you share kind of like what you did for yourself? Because I mean, you manage a country right now, so clearly you were doing something right.
Well, listen, I've had multiple experience, and that particular set of experience didn't come from HAINET. Actually, it came from a business that I was putting in place before I
Okay.
came to HAINET, and it was my first time actually having executives next to me, like board, like partners, like real business partners.
Mhm.
So the communication that you have with your employees, or peer level, was very different when you're having it in a partner level, where everybody puts in their money to put in a business. So it was very hard for me to put my point across. And I went to my mentor, and I'm like, these guys are not listening. They don't know what the hell they're doing. And he was like, "Are you sure you're communicating right?" And I was first of all, I was vexed because I felt like, hey, listen, what is he talking about? I have all this wealth of experience. And then, it starts by being humble. Starts by being humble because when you're a leader, you have the tendency to be so focused on the results and everything and what you need to do that you kind of forget that sometimes you kind of need to improve yourself also. So
Mhm.
taking time, reading, figuring out, what's wrong with the communication gap, and really doing the very simple thing, like really active listening,
Yeah.
really listening to the other person. One of the things that I've learned throughout my experience is that, when you're in certain positions, especially in leadership position, it's generally not about you. It's about the other person. So you kind of need to start listening to the other person instead of reacting to what they're saying, trying to understand it, and focus the energy into okay, what's the end result? What do we want to accomplish? So for me, doing that, and it's a continuous battle, because being intentional is something very important. So really taking the basic time to listen to the other person and drive the communication, the conversation, or the decision process at that level.
Yeah, I like that. I think what I picked up was something like, listening, but really listening, meaning like paying attention to what they're saying, as
Yeah.
opposed to a lot of people who listen to be prepared to respond with what they already intend to say. That's not listening, right? Listening is really just like allowing this
Yeah.
conversation to unfold. Yeah, that's great.
And we're all guilty of that, and
Yeah,
still today it's a
absolutely.
battle.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you're on mute, Lisa.
Thanks. Has that evolved as you have become, higher up in the hierarchy, like over your career? Have you found what has your experience been with listening and really leading into like how do you know if someone's going to be a good leader because they can listen early on? Is that something that you can tell?
Uh, Actually, the more you get higher up in the hierarchy, the more difficult it is because there's a lot of noise. There's much more people coming in. There's much more things to do. There's, a lot of people are coming at you from different sides, different angles, needing different things. When you're working with multiple departments and everybody has their own objectives, and it's an internet company, so it's a very dynamic field. So you have to work on yourself and be able to, take a pause, put healthy boundaries in place, and work with the other person. And for me, what I do also, to come back to your question, I try to grow as much leaders as possible within my group, so that they can become independent and grow themselves also. And the first thing I look for to define if someone's going to be a good leader is I, I try to see how they react within their circle, with their colleagues, with their family members. If that person is too focused on themselves, then that's going to be a formula for for disaster, because leading is about the other person. So he needs to be useful, kind, and focused on getting the result. It's not about the emotional. We're all emotional, but it's trying to take that emotional portion and driving it to get an end result with your people. No one is an island. That's one thing I've learned.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. Um, Janice, do you have any other questions relating to like team building and leadership? Like it sounds like that's the road that we're going down right now.
Yeah. How does somebody right now who is I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because I thought this is because we're talking about teams.
Mm.
Um, People have in their minds like what a leader should look like, right? What if somebody says like, well, I don't really want to manage people. Can I still be a leader if I'm just contributing individually versus, um, you know, managing a massive group? Is that something that's possible for people? How do you see that unfolding?
Well, leading is not being at the forefront. It's not just about being at the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
People lead from different angles. And the unsung heroes are actually generally the best leaders. And the people that are in the forefront, sorry, always need to have someone in the background just really to guide them. And these are the people that are most precious. You don't need to be, in the news or giving out big speeches to be a leader. You can be a leader everywhere, anywhere, and at any point. Uh, Leadership for me is not just it's an attitude. Okay, for me it's an attitude. It's a way of living. It's a way of being. Seeing someone doing something bad on the streets and saying, "Hey, listen, this I need to react on that." That's leadership for me. Trying to help someone better themselves. That's leadership. Parents are leaders. We're all leaders. So it's about, for me, that's what it's all about. It's not just being the top executive. That's not
Mm.
what leadership is about. It's everybody. My assistant is my leader, actually, because she makes sure that all my meetings are in one place. So
Yeah, I like that idea of support also, and creating that team and building from within. It's been a ringing theme, caring for other people is part of the equation, right? Like I believe it was also on your list when you said to be kind and still get the result. So
yeah.
it's no longer sacrificing one for the other. Um, Janice, do you have any other?
Not any questions as it relates to leading like teams or individuals.
Mhm.
But maybe like going back to the topic around, what's happening with everything around us today, you know, what kind of leaders do you think we right now need in this environment, right? So the world as we know it is operating quite differently. We're not face to face with people in the office that much more. I don't know how it is in Haiti, but definitely in Canada and most of North America, people are kind of working pretty virtually. So what does that mean for what kind of leaders, what kind of qualities, or what kind of things do we need from our future leaders to kind of like step into to really work in this environment?
Well, the first thing is it's self-resilience because at the end of the day, you as a leader have the same challenges as everybody else, and we're not in Haiti. We're not in the lockdown situation per se, but we've been through that lockdown, and we have so much turmoil, political turmoil, and natural situation that we basically for the past 5 years have been on lockdown at least 2 days every 3 months at a minimum because of rioting, political instability. So first of all, it's being able to cope yourself. Make sure you're grounded, you're good, because if not, it's your emotion. You're gonna boil. It's gonna pop on your employees, and the last thing that you want to do is to show your employees that you're a ball of emotion. Yes, we are, but you need to do that work yourself first, then
Mm-hmm.
to be able to do that with your employees. So that's the first thing. The second thing is being able to be very open-minded, very inclusive, look for the diversity of skills and diversity of people. Because what I've learned, and I've learned it the hard way, is that it's better to put the people in the most optimal situation for them to succeed than try to force the results out of them, because at the end of the day it's going to create frustration from both sides. So focusing on the person's good points, finding what's that little niche where that person is going to be useful within that group is really going to be critical. And when you're in a virtual environment,
Mm-hmm.
being able to communicate, being able to keep that drive, keep that momentum is really critical, because the person is not in front of you.
Right.
So they're going to be able to do whatever they want and say, hey, I couldn't get online. But making sure that that person has that drive, making it exciting and fun for that person, that's really going to be the challenge for the future leaders.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
hearing definitely resilience, which I totally agree with. And that's something that I think it was important even before all this happened, but way more important now, kind of brings to the forefront because um, we're all at home with our own thoughts and working. We don't have distractions of like taking coffee breaks or anything like that to kind of have that human connection. So yeah, for sure, mental resilience. But Lisa, you were about to say something there?
Yes, I like very interesting that you break it down to it's your responsibility to keep them motivated. I
Mhm.
found that really interesting when he was talking about it's, you have to keep it exciting for them. You have to keep it engaged. This connectivity part of it is the fun factor also, right? It's like the humanizing of the interactions in general.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
just to give you an example, I remember when it was I think around March, April, when really we were at the heat of the lockdown. Like it's happening. We're
Mhm.
really locking down from a worldwide perspective.
Right.
So we had to set up remote working, and the whole call center, it was remote. And I remember I had a meeting with my team, and specifically the call center team. And the first thing I did, I said, listen, we're not going to go to our action item list yet. I want to know how you guys are. How are you dealing with this situation?
Hmm.
And we did, everybody talked, and everybody was shocked, first of all, because like, what does the GM want? Okay. So, but after that, and I started myself. I said, this is my situation. This is my situation. This is how I'm dealing with it. I've this is I've gotten new hobbies. I learned how to cook. so, so then everybody said, okay, they did that. And after that, you kind of saw in everybody's face, like, they were decompressing, and it was easier to go through that, harsh list. So definitely the humanizing part is
Yeah,
extremely important.
I
Um,
love that.
yeah, no, I think that's really great that that's how you started. It demonstrates like your heart-based leadership and you're still committed to getting the results. So, I want to pause for right now because we're clearly going into a two-parter for this one. And when we come back, we'll continue with um, some other deep dives that we want to do with him. So for right now, thank you. We're going to pause. All right. And we're going to start again. Welcome back. We're doing part two with Terry. Janice?
Thank you. So I just want to reintroduce our guest today, Thierry Hyppolite. He is the country manager for HAINET, the internet service provider in Haiti. And we had a great conversation in part one around, just leadership skills and, Thierry's experience with HAINET. And I believe we're going to take the conversation a little bit different direction this time. I'm going to let Lisa take it over.
Thank you, thank you. So Terry, as I know him as Terry, we've worked together on a consultancy basis, and I wanted to give him an opportunity to share a little bit about um, his ability to be a GM and also do some consulting for other businesses that need that type of high-level support that might not be as available. And again, you're the countryman GM, right? So I'm sure people want to know your understanding of everything from logistics to technology and to HR. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, thank you again for the invite and the opportunity to talk a little bit about my skill set and what I've learned. And as well as being the general manager for HAINET, I also help other companies within their digital transformation initiatives. And I also have a couple of people I work with, especially young people that are young talents that are in the tech, very tech savvy, and they want to have some fun using multiple applications. And what I found a lot of very interesting and very intelligent young people, and I want to really help them as much as I have been helped also, because I mentioned a couple of times in this conversation that I had mentors, and thank God I had, because they've helped me, they steered me in the right direction. And this is really something that I value very much, because I'm in a country where the economic level is not very high. So there's a lot of young people. 60% of the population is under 25. So which means there's a lot of hope for young people if they're still in the right direction. So I want to help them grow their skill set, and by helping them grow their skill set, also help other businesses become more successful with their transformation initiatives. So that's the second hat that I do.
Really love how you show up in your community, and you're really forward thinking. If there's one thing that somebody that could put into practice today to change their trajectory to get to where you would want them to go to fulfill that hope, what do you think it is that's going to be required?
I will tell you that one of the things that maybe one of my key skills is discipline. I really believe in being disciplined. That's something extremely important. Being disciplined in what you do, being disciplined in the way you're thinking, and also make sure you have a plan. It's, you can't just um, want to have something. You actually have to prepare for it. You have to have a plan. You have to set yourself some milestones and some guidelines. And if you don't meet them, it's okay. Just focus put a next date and say, you know what, this one I'm gonna go for it. I've done. I'm certified in project management in 2 years ago. The first time that and you have to apply for the exam. The first time I applied, I was rejected. It was so I was devastated. I was absolutely devastated. And then you know what? I just said, you know what? Listen, talk to my family members, to a couple of friends. They're like, you know what? Listen, you got this. No, no problem. So I said, okay, good. I got this. Set up a new date, and my application was approved. Studied like crazy. Traveled, went to take the exam, and got my certification. And I know a lot of people that would have given up, but I talked about resilience, I talked about being disciplined. And sometimes I don't believe in failure, actually. I think that, they're just learning curves. They're things that you need to learn, things that you need to go through to better yourself. So this reminds me of the book, Failing Forward.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so definitely, these are the things that I really think people should apply in their lives.
Yeah.
What did you like? What are some examples of like how you've implemented discipline? Well, like, just to share a tool, because I know, people might be thinking like, okay, discipline, like that's kind of like a catch-all word for a lot of things. Like, and maybe it could be one or two things that you've done that you've noticed that like it helped you, because you talked about, it's about the results as well to give you a lot more resilience. So what disciplinary things have you done for yourself that helped you get the results that you wanted?
The first thing is that I start my day, open my pad, make a checklist of the things that need to be done today. That's the first thing. It can be today, what you're working on for the next 3 months,
Hmm.
everything. But sit down, write down. Don't let the day overwhelm you. Start by having a control of what needs to happen today. And it doesn't need to be a list of 20,000 things, okay? I have something that I apply, which is the rule of three.
Okay.
Okay? 3 things done today.
Right.
On 3 projects, and have a plan for the next 3 months. These are the three. This is my rule of three, and
Awesome.
I apply that.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is not like I need to go make dinner or buy groceries. This is like what are some three major key things that are going to drive some projects or whatever I'm doing.
Exactly,
Got it.
exactly. You check. Make sure at the end of the day you check it off your list. This
Yeah.
is done. This is done. This is not done. Okay, why? Let me put it back until it's done.
Got it. No, that's
Very
a really good
simple.
idea. Definitely. I've heard other variations of it, but three sounds like a good number.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's simple. It's short and simple.
Yeah.
Right. Did you get that from somewhere?
Actually, not really. Maybe, you get influenced by multiple things.
Hmm.
But for me, what I found is that when I look at my checklist, there's so many things that need to be done. I
Hmm.
said, listen, let me just get 3 things done, because you can spend the whole entire day with a list of 10 things and nothing gets done. So, but when you focus and you take it in small chunks, it goes better.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then also to have like a quarterly vision of what's going to happen.
Exactly.
So how much of your planning or your success tracking has to do with future trajectory beyond 3 months? Like surely you have your annual goals and your
Yes.
you know.
Definitely. I want to, well, first of all, I'm going to take a cooking class. That's the first thing, because I'm enjoying cooking right now. Um, well, listen, it's the first thing that I'm trying, I want to make a difference, not only in the corporate life, but I want to see a difference in my environment. And it doesn't need to be a lot of things. It's not like I'm going to build a foundation to lead. I just want to make sure, as I was helped by other people, I can help, one, two other people. At least pass over my skill set, what I've learned, where I failed, and how can we benefit from that? I think that's the first thing that I see as myself. I would love to do a book about leadership and self awareness. Not sure how that will be, but you never know. Forward thinking, I really want to I really want to see something better for my country also, and helping businesses in the transformation. For me, I think that's a very good way to start because it helps. For me, if the economy is not growing, it's not gonna help. So seeing the economy grow is for me something very critical.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement 100%. Right? So whatever we can do to support that as well. I mean, by talking about it, talking about some of the challenges that you might have to, or obstacles that you might have to overcome, and also how they benefit you, right? Because you're used to this lockdown mode versus for us, it's, we're putting up a little bit of resistance and we'll just see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. So different challenges in
Different places.
different places. However, I think leadership as a style there is definitely, um, I don't want to say protocol because it sounds so formal, but I think there's also a level of intuition that comes with it. And I think that the types of leaders that are succeeding today are very different than when I was growing up.
Absolutely.
Right. And so when you look at leadership over there, what does it look like? You know, do we go pre-pandemic? Do we go like 100 years ago? Like, what has the transition been in terms of what was a successful leader before and to now?
Oh, I think that funny that you were saying that because I was looking at a list of leaders and I typed 20th century instead of 21st, and there's two different definitions. It's like two worlds. The leader before was, and some people are still like that. Some leaders are still like that. It needs to be forceful. They need to know everything. You don't challenge the leader because you know what? At the end of the day, he's the boss.
Mm-hmm.
Versus right now, you you don't need to know everything. You just make sure that you can make multiple people work well together. The role of the leader right now is much more of a chef d'orchestre. He's the one. He's making sure that everything works well in a very precise, very methodical symphony. Everybody's in their place, and they're really doing a fine tune. Like I said in the beginning, the thing that I've learned, and I've learned it hard, is that actually being a leader is not about you. It's about the other people.
All right. So I'm gonna that phrase you used. I didn't catch what it was at all. It was French, I'm assuming. But you basically, it's like the conductor of the symphony. Is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
exactly.
Got it. Okay. I just based on conversation. So it's a perfect analogy because the
Mhm.
conductor doesn't know how to play all the instruments, but he's able to bring together the winds, the flutes, the string
Exactly.
together to make a beautiful sound, which is what ultimately the leader will do, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Awesome. I like that analogy. You're the
Yeah.
conductor,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the leader is.
the leader.
And so what is different from before to now that would make one successful? What do you think some of the characteristics might have been?
Oh, I think definitely it's the human portion, the empathy, getting to be much more people oriented, much more self aware. Um, I think that the leadership style or the leaders before were not too focused on trying to better themselves, but just trying to make sure that the employees or the everybody underneath them were doing a good job and performing as they wanted to. They didn't figure that at the end of the day, listen, um, he's a person, I'm a person, I'm in a different situation, so the same challenges that I have, he has that same challenge. So how do I make him perform better? How do I make him comfortable enough so that he's at his peak performance? Because it's not just about making sure that this is done or this is not done. How do you go to that extra mile, that beyond phase?
Yeah.
So getting the employees to go beyond their regular task means that you need to inspire them. They
Yeah.
need to feel that what they're part of something bigger, better, and they're valued and they're valuable. Not just assets, but really they're
Yep.
valuable people, human beings.
Yeah. I totally agree with that because what you're saying is like the leader's role, part of their leader's role is to inspire. Doesn't mean they're rah rah cheerleaders, but how do they make people who are involved part of the movement, right? Part of
Hmm.
like they individually feel invested in what the company is doing and that what they're doing
Exactly.
is meaningful and has impact. So yeah, that's definitely a great way to look at it.
Yeah, and one of the things I really do at HAINET also, I make sure that from the guy who's mopping the floor all the way to the sales manager, everybody knows that what you do is important to the bottom line.
Yeah.
So that's extremely important.
So it sounds like to you that the success of a company is not only the bottom line, but it's also the engine, the people, and their wellness is part of that equation. Has that always been one of yours, or has that developed over time, this understanding of an
It has
application of?
it has developed over time. I will tell you, it has developed over time. For multiple reasons. And at the end of the day, I think at some point in my career, I was stuck because I thought that just pushing the people, just putting a vision out there and challenging everybody was enough.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't. You need to reinvent yourself all the time. And I had to reinvent myself to become a much more human focused type of leader, because at the end of the day, yes, they want to reach that carrot, but sometimes it's just not enough.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So I know we've got to wrap up soon. You said the word reinvent, and I know that's one of our questions for future focus. So how would you reinvent yourself for the next level?
uh, I think that looking at the future me is let's say Thierry 2.0. I think we're going to get into I want to get into that much more community outreach, getting people working together. There's a couple of new corporate views about platforms and ecosystem, and really developing ecosystem and platforms where people are engaged and people are growing. One of the things that I envision, okay, with the young people that I want to work with, how do I create a platform where they can develop their skill set and grow from that skill set, and not only from a local perspective, because since we're globalization is a reality and we're in a global world now, a global virtual world. So
Mhm.
how do we take that to the next level? So that's where I want to build a couple of build small entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs within the within HAINET, outside of it, and all of that, getting people driven to that platform of leveraging ourselves. That's where I see my future.
That's amazing. Amazing. So Janice, you ready to wrap up?
Yes, I am.
So
Oh, I was
thank you,
going.
too. No, I know you say his name so much more
Oh, you
eloquently than you,
okay?
so
I
just
will.
say thank you
I
to
can.
him, and
Thank you, Terry Hyppolite, for joining us today.
yeah.
Hey,
Um,
thank you.
we'll definitely include some of Thierry's details in the wrap of this call where you can be reached out to. I believe that you've also, we mentioned in the earlier sessions that you also have your own consulting business that you're starting to have bigger impact on your community, because we talked about it earlier. We're all about anything we can do to create jobs and create more abundance in our communities and our environment is something that we definitely want to uh, um, help with people. So we'll definitely include some of your contact information there as well.
Okay.
Yes, thank
All
you.
right. Thank you very much.
All right.
All
Thanks,
right.
guys.
Thank you.
Have a great one.
Okay, you too.
Okay.